Part 18. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 172. I'm sorry. Lily apologized sincerely, with a bit of guilt on her face. It's okay, Pei-jun replied seriously. Although he didn't look back, Lily could imagine the look on his face at this moment, and guilt instantly surged in her heart. He had his back to Lily, with broad shoulders and narrow waist, and very soft hair. He was sitting on the edge of the bed with his bare upper body, and he had a gloomy look. Lily stood up carefully and wrapped her body in a quilt, then she lay on the edge of the bed and turned her head away from him. He looked up and came face to face with Pei-jun. I'll pay you one. Pei-jun pursed his lips, with a serious expression that seemed to contain a bit of suppressed annoyance, and shook his head. Mother Qin will make it again. Every piece of his clothes is exactly the same, even the tiny little details. Every detail will be checked again and again before being sent. However, the clothes were destroyed for no reason, which made him a little unable to calm down. Pei-jun knew that it had nothing to do with Lily. At this moment, he clenched his hands into fists and put them on his lap. Although his eyes were staring at her face, there was no trace of her in his pupils, and he was obviously in a daze. Seeing him like this, Lily didn't dare to let him stay like this anymore. She raised her upper body and hung her hands around his neck. Her whole body was almost pressed against Pei-jun, and then he set his eyes on Lily. He didn't speak, looking confused like a child, as if he didn't know why she did this. Lily was deeply afraid that he would be immersed in his own world again, so she whispered while he was staring at her seriously, "Ah-jun, my clothes are dirty, can you choose something for me that I can wear downstairs to eat and go to school?" Pei-jun didn't say anything, but stood up with her in his arms. After solemnly placing Lily on the bed. Then I walked to the dressing room at the back of the room. Although he had not looked for clothes for Lily, the structure of this room was exactly the same as his. When Mr. Pei knew that he liked to sleep in Lily's house, he deliberately decorated their rooms to be the same, even the color of the quilt and sheets. They were all the same, just to avoid being depressed when his grandson entered a strange room. He selected them inside for a while, and in less than 3 minutes, he took out a set of clothes with the label still on. Lily was still afraid that what he took out were the clothes Lily Lin usually wore, but now she saw Pei-jun taking out a light pink down jacket. Inside was a pure white cashmere tight base layer, and blue pencil pants underneath. He even had his boots ready, and thoughtfully put socks inside. Lily looked at him in a daze as he squatted in front of her. His soft broken hair covered most of his face due to his lowering his head. She could only see the pale pink lips and tapered chin under the straight nose. He was naked. As if his body couldn't feel the cold, he put her feet in his hands and put the socks on for her, and at the same time, he put on the pants for her. "I'll do it myself." Lily saw his move. Just when he was about to speak, Pei-jun didn't make a sound. But those beautiful lips pursed again. He hoped that everything could be done by his hands and he would feel very happy. He found that Lily Lin, who disappeared a few years ago, was back. He was abandoned by his parents. Lily Lin was also a person. He was very happy to have such a companion in his life, but it seemed that Lily didn't need him. Seeing his silent expression, Lily's heart softened, thinking that he was different from normal men. He just dressed for her and had no other meaning. He didn't look at her with any lustful eyes. "See you now." Pei-jun remained silent, so she simply leaned her body back. "Ah-jun, please help me." She felt someone pinched her feet and put her legs into pants, and her body was picked up. Pei-jun moved. He gently helped her put on her clothes, even her coat, and then glanced at Lily. "It's time to close up." A simple yet innocent smile appeared on his face, as if the sunshine had broken through the haze, and he couldn't bear to be rejected. Lily was silently held by his hand and entered his room. This place used to be his forbidden area. If others wanted to come in, he would not be able to resist using a handkerchief to erase all the traces left by them. Only Lily could step into this room. Room comes. The entire room was spotless. The floor was covered with pure white wool carpets, and the wallpaper was all white. Even the bed in the room was white, not to mention the sheets. Lily thought that in the memory of the original owner, her room was the same as Pei Jun's more than 2 years ago, but because of her anger later, the whole room was completely changed. Although the wallpaper did not change, the color of the bed did not change, but the carpet and sheets, but something changed. She found the clothes Pei Jun wanted to change into and put them on for him. Finally, when she saw that he was only wearing a black fitted suit, she couldn't help but find a gray cashmere jacket from the cabinet in the dressing room at the back. Put it on your body. Pei Jun obviously didn't like this change. He struggled for a while, and just when he was about to move, Lily glanced at the gloomy weather outside. "Ah Jun, no, I'm wearing your matching clothes, you must listen to me." When Pei Jun was not immersed in his own thoughts, he would still listen to other people's words. He froze when he was about to take off his clothes. He glanced at Lily and saw that he had put on all the clothes she was wearing. If he took off the clothes she chose later, Pei Jun, who never remembered other people's emotions, suddenly made a move, and his face became unusually stiff. "I will choose your clothes from now on." He resisted the urge to take off his coat and change into his usual clothes, and made a request. Lily nodded and glanced at him. He hadn't said so many words to the original owner for several years. Although she knew he couldn't be blamed for this, Lily didn't want to let go of such an opportunity. She didn't know what the original owner's wish was. According to her own opinion, no matter what, Lily Lin's feelings for Pei Jun are different. Even if there is no love, there is definitely a family relationship after getting along for many years. If she can help Pei Jun more, she will also be willing to help him. "Okay, but I will also have to choose Jun's clothes from now on." As soon as Lily finished speaking, a look of regret flashed in Pei Jun's eyes. His life had already formed his own set of rules. He would be uneasy if it was broken. But he had just promised Lily, and now she brought it up. He asked Pei Jun not to speak at this time even if he wanted to refuse. His grandfather once told him that even if he wanted to refuse someone, he should never refuse in person. He should think of some small ways behind the scenes to smooth over the matter and prevent himself from agreeing. As long as the promise you made happens, it doesn't count as breaking your promise, nor does it count as wronging your wish. Pei Jun was originally the crown prince of the Pei family. In the future, the person in charge of the Pei family would not have the opportunity to encounter a situation like what Mr. Pei said. He originally had a psychological problem, so the job that Mr. Pei gave him was it's not very complicated. They are all screened by the old man. Those who can deal with him are all people who don't need to use his heart. Lily never thought that her casual words would make Pei Jun's originally pure and transparent heart have dark thoughts for the first time. When the two of them got dressed and went downstairs, Ms. Pei saw Lily Lin without makeup again after a few years. She was surprised when she saw that Pei Jun was dressed completely differently from usual. He didn't even show any trouble. He had a dry look on his face, and did not insist on changing his clothes, nor did he stop stepping out of the room because of this. You know, it took him nearly 10 years to do such a simple thing, but this girl Lily actually did it. Done. At this moment, Mr. Pei couldn't help but wonder if his judgment about Lily was wrong. He originally thought that she had no effect on her grandson, and he had already wanted to give up on her, but now he saw that she still cared about his grandson. Influential, and more importantly, they seemed to have slept together. Although the servants' expressions were a little strange, they did not show it in front of Pei Jun. They each served the food and forced themselves to look calm. Lily hadn't had a meal at Pei's house for a long time. She was grateful that Pei Jun grabbed her hand like a child who was deeply afraid of her disappearance and asked her to sit at the dining table so that she didn't have to be so embarrassed. She didn't eat last night. I have been hungry for a long time. The Pei family's food is extremely exquisite, but it is mainly for nourishing the body, so the taste is quite bland, but the chef's skills are very good, and the original taste of the food is fully displayed. Lily continued. After eating 3 large bowls, she pretended not to notice. Even Mr. Pei winked at her several times. It wasn't until her stomach was completely filled that she let out a sigh of relief. Although she had to drink wine and eat spiritual fruits when she became the Dragon King, they were not earthly delicacies. After all, eating whole grains after practicing Taoism was not good for the body. She either absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon, or ate the nectar and jade fruits. Although she has lived for a long time, she still has no taste. Now she can finally eat delicious health porridge. Naturally, she will not care about the look of old Mrs. Pei paying attention to her cultivation. Anyway, with Pei Jun here, there is no one. I'll take care of her. Lily Lin, do you have table manners? Mrs. Pei has never seen such a girl who eats too much and loses her composure in her life. Although Lily Lin used to be rebellious, she has no table manners because she grew up in Pei's family. But he was picky. He didn't know that just after not having dinner with her for a few years, this girl became so rude. It seems that you need to learn your rules again. Otherwise, even if you marry into the Pei family, you will make people laugh. Grandpa, the Pei family's family motto is that table manners should not be spoken. Pei Jun took Lily's hand and she squeezed it. He looked back at Lily's eyes and frowned slightly. In the end, he still seriously reminded Mrs. Pei. 1 sentence. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 173. Although it is rare for Mr. Pei to be very happy to hear his grandson speak, but it makes Mr. Pei a little embarrassed when he speaks to him under such circumstances. This is his own grandson, the only child of the Pei family. Although the boy is outgoing, his appearance changed after sleeping with this little girl from the Lin family for one night. Old Mrs. Pei's mouth twitched twice, and he snorted rudely. Seeing that Pei Jun had no intention of adding another bowl after finishing the porridge, he had already taken the handkerchief handed by Chin's mother and wiped his mouth with an elegant and graceful movement. There is a bit of old-fashionedness in the air. It was only when he saw that he acted the same as usual, and even looked the same, that old Mrs. Pei breathed a sigh of relief. This is his grandson. He does things step by step. Although he has some mental problems, he is very smart. Old Mrs. Pei comforted himself. Just when he was about to find an excuse to leave, he saw that Lily had ordered a bowl of porridge and obviously couldn't finish it. As if she was too embarrassed to stay, so she gave Pei Jun a pretending to be affectionate and said warmly, "Ajahn." The corners of old Mrs. Pei's mouth twitched. This was probably not what he imagined. "Ajahn, come and take a sip, this porridge is so sweet." Lily really couldn't eat any more. Even after 3 bowls of porridge, she couldn't swallow it, no matter how delicious it was. But although the Pei family was a powerful family, they thought grains were grains. It's hard work, and she usually doesn't like leftovers. She approached Pei Jun intimately and handed the bowl to Pei Jun. "Ziahe, I know it's sweet." Pei Jun was silent for a while, his handsome face expressionless, but his eyes showed a bit of unwillingness to drink, but Lily didn't seem to see him. With a normal expression, she smiled at him. "Ajahn, try it. It's really delicious." Of course she knew that Pei Jun had drank it. But if she had known that she couldn't eat any more, she shouldn't have ordered such a big bowl. Now there was still half of the bowl, and she couldn't drink it herself. She was embarrassed to have any leftover food in front of so many people. After all, she was here to replace Lin. Lily completed the task, not to make people hate her more. Under her insistent gaze, Pei Jun struggled for a moment, and he had already thought of 2 methods in his mind. One is to just drink a bowl as usual and resolutely refuse Lily's request, but he can't think of what to say for a while. He understands everything, but because he doesn't speak often, his eloquence was not good. At this moment, he was speechless and felt a little anxious. His lips gradually pursed. The second one was that he pushed the bowl away and quickly took something and ran away in the name of going to work, but this was not his past style. Grandpa said that a man should protect the people around him upright, so he has been working hard to learn things that he is not actually interested in. He didn't want to choose either hypothesis. He pursed his lips and said nothing. Seeing such a scene, Mr. Pei didn't know what he felt in his heart. He hoped that his grandson would become different from what he is now, but he also didn't want Pei Jun to change. So when he saw Pei Jun purse his lips, he couldn't help but feel sad. He sneered, "He doesn't know how to drink." His grandson has been doing things regularly since he was a child. For example, what kind of clothes he wants to wear, what kind of pen he wants to use, he has determined everything in his mind. How many bites a meal has and how heavy the portion is are all in his mind. In the past, Mrs. Pei thought that Pei Jun was stupid for doing this, but later he accidentally discovered that Pei Jun was not stupid. Although the portions of the meals he ate were exactly the same, the food he ate was always the most nutritious for the body. He seemed to like a sophisticated computer. He is calculating how he can use the simplest way to complete what seems to him the most complicated thing. As soon as Mr. Pei finished speaking, he saw Pei Jun hesitate for a moment and then reluctantly took a sip from Lily's hand. Seeing such a scene, Mr. Pei was stunned. Since his son and daughter-in-law left early, he spent so much effort on Pei Jun and found the most famous doctors at home and abroad to enlighten him, but to no avail. In the end, although with the help of Lily Lin, Pei Jun could now he lives like a normal person, and the efforts he has made are unparalleled. But just when he thought his grandson would never change, he didn't expect Lily to surprise him again. She could make Pei Jun wear one more piece of clothing. You must know that he has been wearing the same clothes no matter where he is these years. The only difference is that the bow tie has been replaced by a tie, the small shirt has become a large size, and the coat is a few sizes too big. Just a size. Mr. Pei still clearly remembers that when he was changing his tie, he was in a low mood for a long time, as if his face was covered with a shadow. Pei Jun was very stubborn. No one should be able to force him to do something he didn't want to do. Who would have expected that now he was actually willing to listen to Lily? Although he looked troubled, he was still fed half a bowl of porridge by Lily. He was as obedient as a loyal dog raised by Lily. At this moment, Mr. Pei felt a little excited and hopeful. If his grandson can still change, can he hope for more? He had always been a little desperate. He thought he could only look to his great-grandson in the future, but now it seemed that his grandson was not completely hopeless yet. He seemed to have locked up his guard, just waiting for the right key to unlock more secrets hidden deep in his heart. At this time, after Pei Jun finished eating, Lily took a handkerchief and wiped his mouth for him, and whispered, "Ajahn, I have to go to class, can you take me there?" The original owner of Lily Lin did not have a car. After the Pei family had become cold-hearted towards her in the past few years, they would not care if she wanted to go to class. If she had no place to go but return to the Pei family, I am afraid that this person would disappear. No one paid attention to it. She used to walk out on her own feet and then take a taxi to school, but Lily didn't want to leave now. She had a cold wind yesterday, and she was still a little dizzy now. Although she had eaten she felt much better, but she didn't have the strength to go back. Lily Lin had suffered from depression before and her health had not been good. Lily didn't dare to show off at the moment, so she glanced at Pei Jun, "Just send me to the door, I'll take the car out by myself." This time she brought money. Maybe when she came back from school, she could go to the Imperial Plaza to see if the kind-hearted traffic policeman from yesterday was there and pay him back the money. Pei Jun frowned in embarrassment. He clenched his hands into fists and looked a little uneasy. The things he had done early this morning had exceeded his expectations. The clothes he wore and the food he ate were all unexpectedly lost at this moment. He has to drive Lily again. If he takes her to school, he will definitely be late. He doesn't like this kind of time that cannot be controlled by him, as if he will lose a lot of security in this way, but he seeing Lily's face, there was a bit of pleading in her eyes, and her smart eyes made those eyes look particularly bright, as if she could only see herself in them. He remembered Lily Lynn since he was a child, especially after this morning. The friendship between the two was different. He should not refuse his friend's request, so Pei-jun reluctantly endured his anxiety and nodded. Such a move once again surprised Mr. Pei. In the past, his grandson would never have done so many things beyond his plans. Pei-jun is a very self-disciplined person, and his self-discipline has reached a terrifying level. However, at this moment, exceptions were made repeatedly because of Lily. The most important thing was that he didn't seem very anxious. Mr. Pei once again looked at Lily differently, thinking about his original plan to send her back to the Lin family. Seeing her again now, the grandson held back his composure and waited for Lily to take the things and go downstairs, his eyes twinkling. When school was over in the evening, Lily thought that she didn't have a car. Before getting off the car, she glanced at Pei-jun and asked in a low voice, "Ajun, I don't have a car to go back at night. Taxis can only sit in front of my house. There is still a long distance from the house. Can you come pick me up?" She had no intention of giving up Pei-jun to Lin Kinyu this time, so she naturally wanted to get closer to Pei-jun at this time. Pei-jun frowned. He was still there at the moment, worrying about how to take off his coat in the future. Pei-jun didn't listen to Lily's request again at first. It wasn't until Lily reached out to hold his face and raised his head that Pei-jun's eyes met Lily's. When their eyes met, Pei-jun frowned when he heard her repeat her words, and finally nodded reluctantly. After this day's experience, when she saw Pei-jun reappearing in Lily's room at night after taking a shower, Lily's brows jumped when she saw that he had taken off his clothes. She knew that Pei-jun wanted to be with her. About sleeping, Lily hesitated for a moment and took a hairdryer to dry her hair. As soon as she got into bed and turned off the lights, Pei-jun had already reached out to untie her clothes. "What are you doing?" She clutched her clothes tightly, vigilantly. Pei-jun was silent for a while in the darkness, and then said aggrievedly, "Zia-he, you didn't take off your clothes?" He spoke so confidently, and the grievance in his tone was as if Lily had done something particularly bad. When Lily thought of the scene when she caught a cold and had a fever last night and took off his clothes, in Pei-jun's mind, they were probably together. "This is how you sleep." While she was silent, Pei-jun had already untied her clothes silently, picked her up, took off her pajamas, then carefully stood up and folded them on the small sofa next to the bedside table, and then hugged Lily again. Inside. After doing so many missions, she has never been so close to someone. When Lily was about to call Li Yangzi to come out, unexpectedly, she called several times, but there was no movement in the space. Pei-jun had no intention of going further, he just encircling her in his arms. Lily was a little wary at first, but when Li Yangzi didn't show up and Pei-jun didn't make any other moves, she only guessed that it was because Li Yangzi saw that Pei-jun didn't want to do anything to her. So he ignored her. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 174. Lily was a little unaccustomed and let him hold her. Pei-jun had a very clean and fresh orchid smell, which should be related to his shower gel or shampoo. The smell made people calm down quickly. At first, he thought he would fall asleep. She couldn't, but unconsciously she fell into a deep sleep. When her breathing gradually calmed down, Pei-jun, who had been silent until now, opened his eyes and glanced at her curiously. He had never thought that Zayahi would be so comfortable to hold when he grew up. If, as his grandfather said, his partner was her after marriage, he could actually tolerate his pace being disrupted. It was already bright when she woke up. I wonder if this time it was because of yesterday's experience. After Lily finished 2 bowls of porridge, Pei-jun looked at her with some patience. She was a little confused. Pei-jun didn't want to talk at first, but finally, I couldn't hold it back. Mom Chin, give Zayahi another bowl. She was already full and wanted to tell Pei-jun that she couldn't eat any more. But Chin's mother was so surprised that she didn't care whether Lily could eat it or not. When Pei-jun rarely said a word to her, she happily went down with the bowl and went to the kitchen to serve the porridge for Lily herself. Lily took a deep breath. She ate an extra bowl yesterday because of special circumstances. This time she really couldn't eat any more. She hesitated for a moment, and seeing Pei-jun staring at her eagerly, she had to take a small sip. Pei-jun has already lowered his head on his own initiative. It looked like a pet waiting to be fed. Lily seemed to understand what he meant and handed over the porridge bowl. As expected, Pei-jun let her finish the feeding in small mouthfuls. Then he took the handkerchief and wiped his mouth. From the side, old Mrs. Pei saw that the relationship between the two of them seemed to be developing. He couldn't help but look at Lily several times in a strange way. Lily no longer wears heavy makeup in the past 2 days. She no longer wore mini skirts and other nondescript things like before, which made Mrs. Pei's previous dislike of her disappear a lot. What's more important is that his grandson likes Lily. As long as Pei-jun likes her, Mrs. Pei will be happy. He sent Pei-jun to school as usual, but this time he didn't let Lily give him any more instructions. Lily had already seen Pei-jun's car parked outside the school gate just after school in the afternoon. As if it had become a habit, the two of them got up at the same time to have breakfast. She must drink 2 sips of the last bowl by herself, and give the rest to Pei-jun. She can't drink more or less. He also sends her to school and picks her up after school. Lily's life is also different. A routine began to form, and it seemed like we were living the life of an old married couple even before we got married. When December came, Lily had become somewhat accustomed to such days. The reason was that the original owner had fallen into depression after suffering depression in the previous 2 years. So now I have just entered my 3rd year of high school after repeating a grade, and my studies are very heavy every day. Logically speaking, with the power of the Pei family and the Lin family, there is no problem if she wants to go to college directly without going to school. However, the original owner is very stubborn. Due to depression, her academic performance is not good, but she is very good. She worked hard, except for putting on heavy makeup and wearing clothes that exposed some of Pei-jun and Mrs. Pei. During the rest of the time, except when she ran away from home and returned to Lin's house, she hardly went out to make some unscrupulous friends, but I don't know what happened. If it wasn't due to innate factors, her results would not be good no matter how hard she worked. After eating in the cafeteria at noon, while other classmates were meeting in small groups or going out to play or chat, Bei took a book and read it by herself. Her intelligence has now reached the level of a normal person, and the results of more hard work are far better than those of Lily Lin. It was much better before, so her grades improved during this period. She wanted to take out a notebook and copy more English words, but someone outside called her. Li Bei, someone is looking for you outside the school. In this era where everyone has a mobile phone, it is very funny to her classmates that Lily does not use a mobile phone. She did not get good grades in this school, and she was repeated a grade. In the past, her dress looked nondescript, and the Pei family would not allow it. She used the name of the Pei family to ruin the reputation of the Pei family. Naturally, the Lin family would not allow their daughter to be embarrassed like this. Therefore, for 3 years, no one knew that her background was not bad, and they only thought that she was extremely poor. Generally speaking, after seeing her revealing outfit, some people in the class spread rumors that she was being kept by someone. At this time, the person who came to call her was the security guard at the school gate. Lily frowned in confusion, stuffed things into the drawer, then got up and followed her out. As soon as she left, someone was gesticulating. When talking about her gossip, the general idea was that Lily's recent changes were proof in everyone's eyes that she was disheartened after being dumped. Outside the school gate was her mother, whom she had not seen for a long time. When she saw Lily coming out, Mother Lin, who had always been pampered and concerned about her face, couldn't help crying, "Xiao He, what should I do?" In the past, Lily Lin was very eager to get the love from her parents, and she always wanted to be closer to her mother, but Mother Lin did not give her a chance. In the past few years, especially Lily Lin, she was disliked by her every time she returned to the Lin family, saying that she could not seduce her. They caught Pei Jun's heart and made her increasingly uncomfortable. These words were also the reason why Lily's psychological pressure became more and more severe day by day. At this moment, she didn't have a good impression of Lily Lin's mother, but she just looked at her calmly. She paused for a while. "What's wrong with you? Why are you ignoring Mom when she's talking to you?" When Mother Lin saw her like this, she felt a little embarrassed at first, then a little angry. She pushed her daughter and saw that she was wearing a gray woolen hooded imitation fur jacket. A smooth long hair is divided into two strands and draped on both sides of the chest. There is nothing weird in the dark hair, and there is no heavy makeup on the face. The fair and clean look is somewhat in line with her. The innocence comes at this age. Wearing white jeans and a pair of black ankle boots, he looks much more pleasing to the eye than before. Seeing her daughter dressed like this, Mother Lin was a little happy. It should have been like this a long time ago. Master Pei will like you only if you dress like this. You don't know how worried your mother was when you dressed like this. Many people are waiting to take your place. If you see Master Pei, you must make him unable to leave you. You are a woman and he is not young now. You know how to do it? If you really don't know how to do it and you have nothing to say to him, you can do it. Mom will teach you." Lily didn't know how Mother Lin could say such words. Her eyes were cold, she felt sick for no reason, she pursed her lips and said nothing. Seeing her like this, Mother Lin felt a little dissatisfied and couldn't help but said, "Did you hear what I said?" She raised her voice a little sharply. "You, like your father, are born to be angry with me. You are like this, and so is your father. He actually turned that little bitch I brought it home. Fortunately, I still have a daughter. Fortunately, I still have you here. As long as the Pei family is willing to help me, that little bitch Lin Kinyu thinks that mother is more valuable than daughter. She has a good idea." Originally, the Lin family was just an ordinary small aristocratic family. If it hadn't been for the birth of a good daughter and the support of the Pei family, they would just be nesting in a provincial capital. After all, they were the rich generation. The foundation was there. Mother Lin didn't care about her daily life. No matter how big of a brand she was wearing, her temperament was revealed as soon as she opened her mouth. It's just that Lily didn't expect that she would mention Lin Kinyu, and it seemed that Lin's father had already brought Lin Kinyu home, 3 months later than in the plot, but because she came in time in this life, there was no reason why the original owner was harmed, so Mr. Pei did not drive her home, and Lin's father did not find a chance to let his little daughter replace Lily, which made Lin Kinyu return to the Lin family a few months later than in the plot. "Forget it, I thought you had really changed." Mother Lin flipped up her hair impatiently and glanced at her daughter with disgust. "As long as you know that I am your biological mother, Lin Kinyu, you stay away from her and don't let her get close to Master Pei." After saying this, Mother Lin raised her hand and looked at the exquisite watch, and said hurriedly, "Okay, you remember what I said, I am your mother, you were born by me, will I still harm you? That little bitch Lin Kinyu has been waiting to enter the Pei family for a long time. In the memory of the original owner, Mother Lin did not say such words to her. In fact, when the original owner died, she felt very sorry for Mother Lin. Precisely because of Lin Qianyu's sudden appearance, Lily felt that her mother was as uncomfortable as herself. She might even be in a much worse condition than herself, so after Lin Qianyu, an illegitimate daughter, entered the Pei family on her behalf, when Mother Lin cursed her all day long for not dying, this slender and sensitive girl actually felt guilty. She felt it was because of his willfulness and ignorance that he lost the Pei family, and even caused his mother to lose her position in the eyes of her father. Various reasons contributed to her death. But now it seemed as if Lin's mother had already known about Lin Qianyu's existence. She even knew that Lin Qianyu wanted to replace Lily and enter the Pei family. This had to make Lily feel a little amused. She looked at Lin Qianyu. Mother looked at her and her eyes widened. "Mom, would you have known about Lin Qianyu's existence?" Father Lin and Mother Lin had always shown a very good relationship. Now, if Mother Lin hadn't accidentally let it slip, Lily Lin stupid the girl may not know her whole life that her mother does not care about Lin Qianyu's existence as much as she thought. She just thought that her mother was hurt, so she would sympathize with her and love her. In the end, even after she herself was covered in bruises, you also have to suffer blows from your loved ones. Don't worry so much, just remember what I said. I made an appointment with Mrs. Wang and will leave first. Mother Lin herself knew that she might have let it slip. Father Lin had told her before that in Lin, since Lily is becoming more and more difficult to control, it is best to appease her and wait until the Lin family can truly establish a foothold in the imperial capital before finding someone to replace her. The interests of the two couples will be both prosperous and destructive. Mother Lin had known for a long time that there was Lin Qianyu and an extramarital affair outside, but her marriage to Father Lin had existed in name only many years ago. Mother Lin didn't care what Father Lin wanted to do, as long as she could still have Mrs. Lin's title, as long as I can have countless more money. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 175. Even Lin's mother has been very dissatisfied with Lily Lin in the past 2 years. She thinks her husband is right. If Pei Jun has had enough of Lily Lin and sends another girl to the Pei family, it will be enough as long as he can keep his status in the Lin family, but at least I hope that my daughter can survive for another 2 years, and it is best to make the Lin family richer and richer. Lily sneered twice, and her eyes quickly turned cold when she saw Mrs. Lin hurriedly taking out her mobile phone to call someone to play mahjong. Mother Lin came over at noon before school ended, and Father Lin brought someone over again in the evening. It was a girl not much different in age from her, with straight black hair hanging behind her back. She looked incredibly innocent. Her slightly baby-fat cheeks are not as tapering as Lily Lin's, but the 2 blushes on her cheeks add a bit of girlish beauty, which is more delicate than the original owner but a little less. A bit lively and a bit more youthful and energetic. Generally speaking, she is a very outstanding little beauty. Although her temperament is not as good as Lily's, she has the vitality of an adolescent girl. Although Lily is not very old, she has many tasks to do, so she will inevitably have a calm feeling about her. Not everyone will appreciate her calm temperament, but the aura of that girl is something that everyone can't help but like. Seeing this girl, the name Lin Qianyu came to Lily's mind. She had seen it a lot in the plot. Looking at Lin Qianyu, who smiled wantonly, who was healthy and lively but too sensible to be annoying, Lin Qianyu, who was holding Pei Jun's hand and chattering as if he was talking all the time. At the end of their engagement ceremony, the young man with a gloomy and calm face seemed to be listening to Lin Qianyu's words. Lily felt confused for no reason. It started to hurt. The original owner didn't seem to have any wishes. Maybe she didn't even know what she wanted to accomplish. But the feeling she left behind was so strong. Lily couldn't help but stretched out her hand to cover her chest and frowned. After knowing that there was a person like Lin Qianyu, Lin Bei actually envied her. Although she could not see the light of day, Lin's father piled all his hopes on Lin Beihee and sent this daughter out like a commodity without ever seeing the light of day. Lin Qianyu, who was just a child, received all his love and pampering, as if all the fatherly love he should have given to Lin Lili was given to Lin Qianyu. It can be said that apart from not having a complete family, Lin Qianyu has gained more than ordinary girls. She had parents who went to school with her, children who played with her, friends of the same age, and many things that Lily longed for but could not get. She had parents who loved her, and in the end she got Pei Jun. She got the complete thing when she was the youngest, and when she grew up, she dedicated her complete self to Pei Jun. Lin Lily, a silly girl, got an incomplete childhood, and in the end even the few things she had left were robbed. It's a pity that she can't remember what Lin Qianyu said to her. Whenever she tries to recall, her mind feels swollen and painful. That seemed to be a very important matter to the original owner. Her body was still subconsciously keeping that secret and didn't want the original owner to remember it. Li Beihee, come here. Father Lin was smiling and talking to Lin Qianyu, and occasionally he would trim her hair like a father. When groups of students poured out of the campus, Lin Qianyu reached out and pointed towards the school. Pointing his finger, Father Lin turned around and saw Lily, who seemed a little out of place in the crowd. He waved to her, "Let me introduce it to you. This is Lin Qianyu. Just call her a whisper. Yes, she is your sister." After saying this, Father Lin couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw his daughter dressed normally today, but his expression was a little impatient. "How are you at the Pei family recently? I'm not telling you, a girl has to. What does it look like to look like a girl and dress casually all day long? I'm afraid people will think that the daughter taught by my Lin family is not a daughter but a prostitute." Thinking of Lily Lin's previous dressing, Father Lin was very disgusted and deeply embarrassed. "I beg you, if you don't think about your own face, you have to think about the Pei family and mine. I don't know what sins I have done in my previous life, but I have to pay you back in this life." When Lily heard this, she couldn't help but laugh. Whenever Lily Lin wanted to return to the Lin family to get even a little care from her parents, Father Lin and Mother Lin said the same thing, as if they disliked her and had become the Lin families. The humiliation caused a lot of harm to her heart. What does a teenage girl know? She just wanted to use this method to gain other people's attention. Life in the Pei family was not easy. Except for a very wide garden and the Pei family's villa area, Lin Lily's childhood was filled with only strangers and scrutiny. The servants, Pei Jun, who was so quiet that he almost didn't exist, and an old man Pei who was intimidating to her. Growing up in such an environment, without her parents around her, Lily Lin was originally a person who was very eager to be cared for. She needed more than others, but she never got even a little bit. She kept giving. Maybe she didn't know how to pay, but she was anxious in her heart. Father Lin and Mother Lin only knew how to blame her, but never taught her how to satisfy them. The only rebellious thing was probably the clothes she wore in the past 2 years. Maybe she changed her clothes and dress, but even so, she just wanted to get more attention from others. In fact, no matter how outrageous she dressed, she never learned to be bad, but obviously no one paid attention to what she did. It was as if she had fallen because of her dress. Hearing Father Lin, the biological father, say such things to harm his daughter, Lily could only sigh that she was lucky that she was not the original owner, otherwise she would not know how uncomfortable she would have been hearing this. "I wonder what my father taught me." A man who had given away his daughter since she was a child had the nerve to mention his Lin family tutor. The original owner spent very little time with him from the age of 6 to 19, 1 year. There is no guarantee that she will meet her 10 times. Once Lin's father takes the initiative to show up, he must be asking for something. Others who have never said a word of comfort have the nerve to say that she has embarrassed the Lin family. Those who know the inside story will naturally know that the original owner is Lin Beihee. Those who don't know the inside story may think that she is the child bride of the Pei family. The original owner had never been so rebellious before. Father Lin's eyes suddenly darkened. You don't need to talk nonsense with me, stop doing this with me. Your wish has come true. Don't you want to go home? Just come back, but before that you have to stay at Pei's house for half a year and bring your sister to the house. Take it over and play with it too, and from now on she will eat and live with you. Father Lin didn't just want to discuss with Lily, but had already given the order directly. He had had enough of this willful eldest daughter. Since he was a child, he had never known how to share the burden for the family, but only complained. How could a family like the Pei family be so close? If she didn't plan for her, how could she enter the Pei family and enjoy all the rich food and clothing? How could she have a chance to get into the Pei family? It was something that many people would envy, but she refused as if there was something wrong with her brain. It was simply not like the kind he had given birth to. She was making trouble all day long looking for things to happen, which made old Mrs. Pei reluctant to accept him now. He called me. Such a daughter is useless and useless. Fortunately, he still has a sensible daughter. As long as Lin Qinyu is sent to the Pei family, this obedient daughter will not be bad, and is better than Lily's lifeless appearance. As long as the younger daughter's entry into the Pei family has an effect, he no longer needs to always after hearing Lily complain. As long as someone likes Lily and can put forward conditions that satisfy him, he will send her away to marry her from afar so as not to be an eyesore. At this moment, Father Lin was thinking about wishful thinking. He originally thought that Lily Lin had said that she wanted to go home many times and that she did not want to stay in the Pei family. She should be ecstatic when he mentioned it like this. Unexpectedly, she glanced at him and sneered twice. What do you mean? Father Lin suddenly became angry when he saw her expression. He reached out and grabbed Lily's arm, and shouted at her sternly, how long will you continue to be willful? Lin Qinyu next to her had a faint smile on her face. Seeing that Father Lin seemed to be angry, she quickly stretched out her hand to hold Father Lin's arm and said coquettishly, Dad, sister didn't mean it. If I make you angry, you should listen to your sister before you get angry. Her words of advice at this moment were like adding fuel to the fire, making Father Lin even more angry, regardless of whether he was at the school gate or not. Next to him, he stretched out his hand, pretending to hit Lily. After coming to this mission, except for the time at school, Pei Jun was almost always with Lily at home. The two of them had no so-called sexual space at all. Except when going to the toilet and taking a shower, Pei Jun wanted to. She had to stay with Lily, so Lily had no chance to practice her martial arts. At this moment, Father Lin, who was furious, reached out and grabbed her, but she couldn't even struggle away several times. I thought I had just received the slap, but I didn't expect that at some point an arm had stretched out and lightly grabbed Father Lin's arm. Zia, why are you still here? Pei Jun's eyes showed a bit of confusion and anxiety. He could not arrive at school early or late, but at 6:30. This high school is a private high school in the imperial capital. In high school, the tuition is not bad. Although the teachers are paid a lot of money, it is impossible to delay classes like in ordinary public schools. The classes are on time, usually at 6 o'clock, and there is no early self-study. During evening self-study, when he usually came over, Lily was already waiting for her outside the school gate, but now she didn't come even after waiting for 5 minutes. To be continued. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 176. For others, 5 minutes is not a long time, but for Pei Jun, who is prone to burnout, 5 minutes is enough for him to become restless. His car was parked about 100 meters away from the school gate, because she didn't like the crowds, so she never got out of the car on weekdays, but now she was willing to get out of the car to look for Lily. Lily looked back at him and saw his brows furrowed, and couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Ajahn? Why are you here? Where is Uncle Joe? Uncle Joe is the husband of the Pei family's housekeeper Chin's mother. He originally drove for Mr. Pei, but since Pei Jun was willing to go out, Mr. Pei became familiar with this person. The servant assigned it to him for use. Uncle Joe looks like an ordinary driver on the surface, but he is actually a master of judo. He was not only Mr. Pei's housekeeper, but also his bodyguard. Uncle Joe has always taken a close look at Pei Jun, but he didn't expect that he would do it now. Let him get out of the car alone and come over alone. Lily glanced at where Pei Jun parked, but Pei Jun reached out and took away Father Lin's hand on her arm. Seeing the pain on Lily's face, Lily rolled up her sleeves. Father Lin had no father-daughter affection for this daughter who had not been raised by his side since she was a child, so he was very aggressive. At this moment, Lily's skin was extremely white. Pei Jun could see the red mark on his arm at a glance, and his eyes suddenly turned red. It became gloomy. He was angry, Lily could tell. He did not hide his unhappiness. On the contrary, he was happy when he was happy and angry when he was angry. He stared at Father Lin and said seriously, "Apologize. Master Pei, I am Lily's father. The prince of the Pei family is very mysterious, and Mr. Pei protects him extremely well. The media has never exposed this low-key nobleman. Although it is not a secret among the upper-class society in the imperial capital that Pei Jun is autistic. But few people outside know that due to the power of the Pei family and the status of Mr. Pei, no one dares to gossip behind his back. Father Lin also met Pei Jun once many years ago, and now when he sees him again, there is something in his eyes. A flash of excitement flashed through him. If he could talk to Pei Jun directly, he wouldn't have to go through Lily to get it done. After all, how can it be better to rely on others than on oneself? He was trying to push his little daughter out. But the place where Pei Jun had just grabbed his hand was in excruciating pain. Pei Jun's eyes did not fall on Father Lin, he only saw the eye-catching red mark. At the moment, he couldn't understand what distress or possessiveness meant. He just saw that a mark had been left on the originally pure white skin. This was simply unbearable for Pei Jun, and his expression gradually became he was getting anxious, and Lily was deeply afraid that he would lose his patience. Once he was in a bad mood, he might not say a word for a day or two in a row, sitting in one place blankly for several hours or even a day. All day long. Although she didn't want to help Lin's father, she couldn't bear to make Pei Jun uncomfortable. So I grabbed his palm with my backhand, and saw that he was still pressing his lips tightly, staring at the place on his hand that Father Lin had just grabbed. While pulling off the clothes, he separated his fingers and intertwined with his. Perhaps it was Lily's somewhat cold palms that brought Pei Jun back to his senses. Emotions finally appeared in his eyes, which were no longer as dark and dull as before. Lily's figure was printed in his eyes, and Lily felt relieved. He took a breath and shook his hand. "Ajin, let's go." When Father Lin heard this, he was furious. He didn't know Pei Jun's habits, but seeing that he behaved normally and was willing to talk, he felt that Pei Jun's situation was not that serious. He didn't know that he had just talked to Pei Jun. In fact, Pei Jun did not hear Jun's self-introduction. When he was about to reach out to pull Pei Jun again, Lily blocked Pei Jun in a flash, and Lin's father's hand happened to touch her clothes. Pei Jun's expression became more gloomy, and he was silent for a long time. He took out the handkerchief from his pocket, pulled Lily over and gently wiped it on her back. The movement was a little slow at first, but later he became a little anxious, and his lips were thin. She pursed her lips into a straight line, and her dark eyes stared directly at the part of her clothes that had just been touched, with a very serious look on her face. "Ajin, let's go." After Lily said this, Pei Jun didn't hear it at all. She gave Lin's father a cold look, stood on tiptoes and reached out to hold Pei Jun's face. She found that this method is very effective. As long as his eyes see him and his existence is noticed, Pei Jun will actually listen to what others say, but no one dared to do this to him before. Dirty, He touched Yu Pei-jun's words were aggrieved, but to Lin's father and Lin Qianyu, it sounded like a tall and handsome young man acting coquettishly to a petite girl. Lin Qianyu's expression changed. She saw that Father Lin suffered a loss and was ignored by Pei-jun just now. Now Lin Qianyu would not be as stupid as Father Lin. She stretched out her hand to pull Lily, elder sister. I don't like other smells on you. Pei-jun pursed his lips, with a serious and stubborn look in his eyes. This feeling was as if a stranger had entered his own room, making him feel unable to calm down. In order to change the carpet and clean the room for him, Qin's mother and others made sure many times that there would be no traces left in the house. It took him a long time to get used to it. At this moment, it was as if his doll had been touched by someone else. Pei-jun felt a little uncomfortable, but he was speechless, so after saying this, he fell silent again. I know what a Jun means, let's go. Lily didn't even look at Lin's father, and shook the hand that Lin's father had just held her. Her move made Pei-jun's face show a smile. A subtle smile, his eyes were as pure as fine clear crystals. Now when he smiled, his eyes were tinged with light, revealing his white teeth. The man who could already be called a young man now actually had a transparent smile like a child. Lin Qianyu's eyes flashed with surprise. She knew that the eldest young master of the Pei family was a fool, but she didn't expect that the prince of the Pei family was so handsome. He doesn't look like a fool at all at this moment, as his father said. Instead, he has an urge to keep him treasured so that no one can see him. Just when she was about to speak, Pei-jun didn't even look at her. He led Lily and walked towards the car. As he walked, he said seriously, Zia, I'm not happy anymore. Father Lin originally wanted to chase him, but in the black sedan not far away, a sturdy middle-aged man got out of the car and gave him a cold look. At this moment, even his daughter refused to help. On his own, Father Lin saw the dangerous look in the driver's eyes and finally put the foot he had just lifted back to the original position. After getting in the car, Pei-jun was not in a daze, but stared out the window sideways. He has a face that can make even women jealous. His fair profile looks very delicate, his eyelashes flutter gently like butterfly wings, and his pale pink lips are pursed tightly, even when he is serious. Incredibly charming. Ajin Lily hooked his finger in a flattering way, and Pei-jun turned his head and looked at her seriously with a pair of big dark eyes. I'm angry. He was angry that he didn't wait for him after school and instead talked to Father Lin and others. Lily had been with Pei-jun for a while and understood his character. Now she understood that he was a little anxious but could not speak. So I shook his hand and said flatteringly, I know I didn't wait for Ajin where I was. It's my fault this time. But he is my father, and he wanted to talk to me, so I stood a little longer. For a while. But he doesn't want you anymore, Zia. We are friends. Pei-jun was a little anxious. He didn't seem to know how to express what he wanted to say. He actually knew everything in his heart, but because he had not spoken all year round, now a little panicked, his jade-like face flushed red, his hands tightly clenched into fists and placed on his two slender thighs, his whole body tensed up, his lips pursed into a straight line. It was obvious that there was nothing he could do to him. He could fully express what he meant but was a little unable to calm down. Mr. Pei taught him well. Even when he was upset and uneasy, he still sat upright with a sinister look in his eyes. Under his silent nose was his tightly pursed lips. But his back was still straight, and his posture was as upright as an obedient child. He looked a little depressed now, with a look of hurt in his dark eyes, and his originally light pink lips now looked a little white. There was no extraneous expression on his face, and he looked very lonely. Lily knew what Pei-jun wanted to say. He wanted to tell himself that Lin's father and Lin's mother had sent her to Pei's house. In Pei-jun's view, Lily's parents no longer wanted her, so she should belong to Pei-jun. The two of them were the one who was abandoned by their parents together. Judging from the memory left by the original owner, she was sure of this. Jun regarded her as a companion, so he was willing to let her get close and could talk to her more than others. If there are more, they will sleep together with her to keep each other warm. I know that Ajin is the person closest to me. Lily saw Jun's body getting stiffer and stiffer, and touched his fair face with her hands. He seemed a little uncomfortable, but the hands on his legs were without moving away. The driver drove the car in front, and closed the curtain between the sound-absorbing glass, forming a small sealed world behind the car. Lily knelt and sat up, leaning her head against his. Feeling his soft and cold, silky-like hair brushing against her face, she couldn't help but hold his head in her hands and turn his face, and kissed his forehead gently with her lips. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 177. In an instant, Jun's earlobes turned red. Not only his face, but also his neck began to turn red. He started to tremble a little, and his usually calm eyes began to tremble slightly. He seemed to want to. What did he want to do? But he forcibly restrained himself. His arms suddenly became a little stronger, as if he was about to press his fists firmly on his thighs. He didn't dare to look at Lily's face at this moment, but Lily was sure that he was not in a daze. We two belong to the same country, but he is the elder after all, so I only pay attention to him today, just like Jun sometimes listens to his grandfather. Lily saw Jun moving around but didn't dare to look at her. Couldn't help but chuckle. After doing so many missions, this was the first time she met a simple and transparent person like Jun. It was also the first time she really had the idea of getting close to someone. She saw many kinds of smart and scary people. As a queen, Jun was so simple and straightforward that she couldn't help but feel a little distressed. Grandpa, sometimes I won't talk to him. He seemed to understand a little, and was a little proud. After finishing this softly, he wanted to turn his head to look at Lily, but it seemed that old Mrs. Pei's teachings to him were not enough. It was engraved into his bones, and even though he was already stiff at this moment, he just rolled his eyes to look at Lily, and then quickly lowered his eyelids. I know, so I didn't say too much to them. Lily heard his somewhat proud tone and held back her laughter and touched his cheek again. The Pei family raised this prince who was supposed to be aloof to others. She couldn't help but like him. Seeing how he was a little shy but forced to endure it, Lily chuckled and rested her head on his shoulder. I've done this many times. Although this was the first time she didn't understand what the original owner's wish was. But being next to Jun gave her a feeling that made her relax. She couldn't help but put her hand around Jun's arm. She felt that his body was as tense as steel, as if he didn't dare to move. Suddenly she remembered something. Ajin, you didn't even show up for my birthday last time. Come to me. I went out and asked someone to borrow money before I came back. I have to pay him back. Lily originally wanted to pay back the money to the policeman a month ago, but the relationship between Jun and her at that time was not as close as it is now. Lily was afraid of breaking the hard-earned balance, so she didn't speak. Now she took the opportunity to mention it, and Jun's expression became serious, and even the blush on his cheeks and ears began to fade away. Little I remember, it's your birthday. I finally sent you back, so I should pay you back and thank him. When Lily heard the word finally, she couldn't help but want to laugh. She had only been out for a few hours. How could she be told to finally send her back? What's more, he didn't miss her that much before. In the memory of the original owner, Jun barely spoke to her in the past 2 years, but in fact, the two were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. Lily Lin still likes Jun, and she has already acquiesced in her heart that she wants to be Jun's bride, but there are still some things that she is not willing to accept, such as a life that cannot be determined by herself, such as that which she has never longed for. Freedom and family. It's just that the relationship between her and Pei-jun is not bad at the moment. At least Pei-jun accepts her and doesn't turn a blind eye to her closeness or resist. This is not easy for Pei-jun. Lily doesn't want to bring up some things to confuse him. A woman's heart, sometimes even a man walking among flowers, may not understand the needle on the seabed, and Pei-jun may not understand it even more. After talking to Uncle Jean, the driver and bodyguard in front of him, he stopped the car in a square in the imperial capital. Facing the endless crowds of people, Pei-jun was obviously not used to it. His whole body was a little stiff now, and his eyes were a little panicked. He got up, lowered his head and stared at Lily as if pleading. Lily knew that something happened to him when he was young. In fact, Pei-jun didn't like those people who pretended to care but always wanted to see his jokes. He understood everything in his heart. I just don't want to say it out loud and want to lock myself up alone. After all, several people knew the cause of the death of the Pei family and his wife. It appeared to be a car accident, but in fact there was something else going on. Therefore, the shadow in Pei-jun's heart was buried deep. He doesn't like crowds and only likes to hide alone in the dark. Now seeing so many people, he instinctively feels a little panicked. Ajahn, look over there. Lily felt that his body was shaking involuntarily, and she clasped her fingers tighter with him while coquettishly putting her hands into the pockets of his grey fur coat. Here, when Pei-jun's still unsettled eyes saw Lily's smiling face, he couldn't see anything else. He fell into his own thoughts again, instinctively ignoring the people and various sounds around him. He allowed Lily to lead him forward, staring at her with a pair of eyes until he came to the police car. When he was standing by, Lily's hand waved in front of his eyes, but he hadn't come back to his senses yet. Ajahn, she called him and saw that Pei-jun didn't respond at all. Lily didn't know that he was in a daze again. This was the most powerless time. Mr. Pei had tried it before. If it was just a normal daze, it would be fine. If he really wanted to be in a daze, no matter whether it was pain or shaking, it would be impossible to wake him up. Lily had no choice but to think of the shy look on his face when he touched his forehead just now. While putting his hands on his shoulders, he stood on tiptoes and reached out to hook his neck. He was originally going to drag his head off, but he clearly remembered the lesson of Mr. Pei even in a daze. He stood upright, as if like a green bamboo, with an ignorant and innocent expression but a bit of arrogance. Lily simply jumped up and hung her legs around his waist. She hooked her arms around his neck and climbed up twice, but he didn't respond, until her face, as she got closer to his face, Pei-jun's unfocused eyes seemed to be looking through her face, and she didn't know where to look. Lily touched her lips lightly on his forehead, but there was no response, and touched his eyelids again. He blinked instinctively, but still didn't come back to his senses, but a pair of hands subconsciously wrapped around her waist to relieve her pressure. Being supported by him, Lily breathed a sigh of relief. She touched both sides of her cheeks, but there was no response. She hesitated for a moment, but before she spoke, Pei-jun lowered his head, and Lily's lips touched Pei-jun on the cherry-pink lips. Pei-jun subconsciously opened his mouth and licked the slightly itchy lips with his tongue. This action made both of them stunned, and his originally dim eyes it gradually became brighter, and Lily knew that he had woken up at this moment. She originally just wanted to test to see if she could wake up Pei-jun, but she unexpectedly touched his lips by accident, and for a while it's a feeling of embarrassment and a bit of relief. Zia, what are you doing? Pei-jun stared at her lips carefully, his eyes a little blurry, as if he wanted to do it again. He licked his lips as if aftertaste. Zia, I still want to. He spoke confidently, without any hint of guilt or embarrassment. There was no evil thought in his eyes, as if a child who had tasted the sweetness of candy wanted to eat another piece of candy. Lily's face was hot and she tried to stay calm. He shook his head, no more. Pei-jun fell silent. Seeing him like this, Lily couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. After all, Pei-jun was just autistic and not a fool. When she was about to say something to round out her words, she couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. Seeing Pei-jun shaking his wrists slightly and easily lifting her body higher so that her eyes could meet his, he asked quietly, "When will that happen?" Lily turned her face away. Pei-jun seemed a little anxious, but he couldn't let go of Lily with his hands, so he had to purse his lips and watch her look away, but there was nothing he could do about her. His eyes fell to Lily's small and cute ears, which were originally crystal clear, were now red. He looked at it curiously, but Lily became a little uncomfortable, and hurriedly patted Pei-jun, signaling him to put her down. I felt relieved. "Ajun, do you have 100 yuan? After Lily patted Pei-jun's arm, he was stunned for a moment, then let go of his hands, staring at Lily, not listening to what Lily said at all, until she turned around and held her hand again. After repeating it to his face, Pei-jun smiled at her. No. No one dared to smile so beautifully. Lily saw the police car moving not far away and secretly regretted it. If she had known she had borrowed 100 yuan from Uncle Jean, she would not have repaid the money for the time being. Pei-jun didn't like crowded places, so she pulled Pei-jun toward Jean. Walking to where Uncle Jean parked his car, he saw the two people back so quickly and holding hands. Pei-jun didn't show any uneasiness on his face. Uncle Jean felt relieved when he heard that Lily asked him to borrow 100 yuan and wanted to pay it back. He was in a hurry and agreed. Now as long as Pei-jun can be well, he will be happy to donate 100,000 yuan. Uncle Jean has no intention of leaving the two of them to repay the money. He can naturally find out who lent the money to Lily if he goes to check. It is impossible for him to leave Pei-jun's side at this time and stay outside. For such a long time, he was afraid that Pei-jun would feel uncomfortable later, so he turned the car and drove in the direction of Pei's house again. Lily was going on winter vacation soon, as if the pace she had been used to for 2 months had been disrupted. On the first morning of winter vacation, Pei-jun's eyes looked a little irritated. He glanced at Lily several times, obviously hoping Lily was able to go out with him again. He had finally gotten used to this kind of life, but now it was about to change. He couldn't control his inner feelings. Although his face was very calm, it could be seen from his tense body. He couldn't settle down in his heart. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 178. Lily's feeding didn't make Pei-jun calm down. He showed such an obvious desire to calm down that not only Lily, but also Mr. Pei noticed something strange about him. Since Pei-jun got older, he became more and more able to calm down. He controlled himself very well, and rarely showed such a look that made it obvious that he was very anxious. Mr. Pei frowned and glanced at Lily. He knew that all this was related to Lily. Thinking of the people around him a few days ago, the Secretary General once said that if Father Lin wanted to send another daughter to the Pei family, he refused at the time because he had discovered that his grandson's condition seemed to have improved significantly. But now that he saw Pei-jun's happiness and anger being easily influenced by Lily, Mr. Pei felt a little unhappy again. He didn't know whether Pei-jun's change was good or bad. Now he only has a grandson like Pei-jun. He was very afraid that Pei-jun would be hurt. In the past, Pei-jun was willing to talk to Lily Lin, but he didn't show that he cared about her. Now he seems to care about Lily very much in every move he makes. He is very afraid that Lily will return to his old ways like before. Pei-jun's blow will only be deeper. Now that Pei-jun is much better, if there is one more girl who can make him understand that Lily is not the only one for him, even if Lily leaves him one day, another Lily will soon appear in front of him. Maybe it's worth it? Mr. Pei was afraid that his grandson would be harmed. His son died young. On the surface, it was just a car accident, but in fact, someone did it deliberately. He has been so precious to the Pei family's only seedling over the years, and he has taken good care of it, and he must not allow any accidents to happen. Mr. Pei's eyes showed determination, and he didn't need to say more. But Mr. Pei understood in his heart. Most people will help him get things done properly behind his back. Being in a high position has such benefits, and he wants to pass on what he has now to his grandson or great-grandson in 100 years. Ziahe, let's go to the square in the Imperial Capital Business District. After struggling for a long time, Pei Jun still couldn't help but make the request. His inexplicable words made Mr. Pei almost spit out the tea he was drinking. Recently, Pei Jun he talks more than before. Although he still said that he was listening most of the time, he no longer felt like he was performing a one-man show before. In the past, Pei Jun would not necessarily give in to Pei Jun when others talked about it in front of him. There was only a slight response, but in the past 2 months, he had more expressions. Although he frowned most of the time, this slight fluctuation in his expression made him seem to come alive. It's not surprising that his grandson can talk. After all, he can talk, but sometimes he just doesn't want to talk. But when did his grandson, who didn't like to be near others, take the initiative to go to one of the most prosperous places in the imperial capital? Doesn't he like to be too close to strangers? Lily saw the puzzled look on old Mrs. Pei's face. This old man, who could make the country tremble when he stamped his feet, was eavesdropping on her answer with his face turned sideways. Thinking of Mrs. Pei's previous attitude towards the original owner, Lily refused to let him hear it. She knew what Pei Jun meant when he said this. After all, she and Pei Jun had a better understanding after getting along for the past 2 months. Naturally, now thinking of the unintentional close contact between the two, Pei Jun probably thought that since the last time they had an unintentional touch of lips was in front of the Imperial City Square, in his eyes, he would probably have to be in the same place before he would meet again. Do what you did before. Why are you going to the square? She spoke close to Pei Jun's ear, staring at old Mrs. Pei from the corner of her eye. She didn't notice that Pei Jun, who was sitting in front of her, was looking at her opening and closing lips. His eyes were a little deep. If you want to speak, speak louder. Mr. Pei became a little angry when he saw Lily's behavior. He stopped eavesdropping. He wanted to listen openly, otherwise he could just ask his grandson later. Pei Jun did not have those roundabout ways. Sometimes, Mr. Pei felt that he was so simple that he didn't look like a member of the Pei family. If he hadn't inherited the innate intelligence of the Pei family, he could learn something easily even if he didn't work as hard as others. Mr. Pei would have, nor would she hold on to a glimmer of hope in him after his accident. As long as you ask him, he will tell you honestly. Ajahn, this is a secret between us. We can't tell others, Lily whispered in Pei Jun's ear, and finally loudly said the words asking him to keep it secret. Pei Jun nodded seriously. Old Mrs. Pei knew that he had nothing to say from his grandson. Although Pei Jun had no secrets to tell, sometimes it depended on whether he wanted to tell him or not, but the only thing was that he would definitely do what he promised to others. Although he never promised others easily. After glaring at Lily bitterly, Mr. Pei put down the teacup in his hand and got ready to change clothes and go out angrily. Lily had nothing to do all day, but Pei Jun still glanced at her before leaving, making it clear that he wanted her to go out with him. She hesitated, thinking that she had nowhere to go, and seeing that the clothes Pei Jun changed for her today were obviously suitable for going out, she followed Pei Jun into the car. Just this simple action made Pei Jun satisfied. Laughed. Unexpectedly, when Uncle Zhong drove the car to the school gate, Lily was stunned. When she saw Uncle Zhong stop the car, she thought to herself, no way. Ms. Lin, you can get off the car here. We will pick you up in the evening. Uncle Zhong got out of the car and opened the door for Lily, with an innocent look on his face. Pei Jun has a certain degree of obsessive-compulsive disorder. It is very difficult for him to change things if he becomes a habit. If something unexpected happens, he will be in a low mood for a long time. In order not to wrong Pei Jun, He treats Uncle Jean. Of course, Lily is the only one who feels wronged. It's already snowing lightly in the imperial capital in December, and it's freezing cold outside. The clothes Lily is wearing can indeed keep out the cold, but if you hang around outside all day, you'll still have to stand here stupidly until 6:30 in the afternoon. If she asked Pei-jun to pick her up, she must be stupid. This was just the official holiday. If she had to make trouble like this for a month, she wouldn't have to spend it this year. Lily laughed twice and said decisively to Uncle Jean, "Uncle Jean, wait for me for a while." After she said this, she saw Uncle Jean looked embarrassed and closed the car door again. Through the window, she could see Uncle Jean standing there. He stomped his feet in the snow and breathed into his hands. Because he had to drive, he didn't wear gloves. He was already so cold after standing like this for a while. He didn't have a car and he didn't guess Pei-jun's nature and he didn't bring any money. She would never hang out all day, otherwise where would she have lunch? Ziahe Pei-jun put his hand on her cheek, just like she usually did, and pulled her face to turn her head away, with some displeasure on his face. "I don't like you looking at other people. Ajin, listen to me, I don't want to go out." As soon as Lily spoke, Pei-jun's eyes dimmed, his brows furrowed, and there was a bit of embarrassment between his eyebrows and eyes that looked like mountain ink paintings. With a look on his face, he frowned, and Lily burst into tears in her heart, and said decisively, "Ajin, do you still want to be like last time?" After she finished speaking, she moved her face closer to Pei-jun's face. His handsome face was expressionless, but Lily's face was clearly reflected in his eyes. When she saw her cheeks flushed, she slowly moved closer to him. "The girl, there is a unique fragrance on his body, which is the fragrance of shampoo and shower gel. It is light and elegant and penetrates into his nostrils. He always looks at people and sometimes he can't even recognize other people's faces, let alone care whether the other person is a boy or a girl." Pei-jun now clearly recognized the person in front of him. "Ziahe," he called out, carefully put his hand around her waist, and couldn't help but shout again, "Ziahe." It seemed that the more he called her name, the more deeply her face would be remembered in Pei-jun's eyes. The girl's soft lips were gently pressed against his lips with a bit of trembling and coldness, and there was a slight itch between the touches, as if a feather gently touched his heart, and Pei-jun's heart seemed to be violently twitched at this moment. His eyes became brighter and brighter, and his hands instinctively hugged her tighter. "Ziahe." The breath of his words blew on Lily's face. Lily didn't dare to look at him and wanted to stay away from him, but now her waist was held by him, making her unable to flinch away. "Ajin, can I go to the company with you now? I want more." Pei-jun didn't hear what she said. He just watched her move her head away, with a hint of persistence in her eyes. "You can't leave." Lily knew Pei-jun's character, and now she realized that he didn't mean to take advantage of him. This time he touched Pei-jun's lips perfunctorily. "Ajin, I'll go to the company with you." Pei-jun pursed his lips tightly. He didn't like Lily's attitude of dismissing him, but he couldn't say anything that fit his inner thoughts, so his eyelids drooped, blocking the thoughts in his eyes, and his face was full of confusion, showing a dull look. The long eyelashes hang down on his lower eyelids, and a small part of the black eyeballs and lower eyelashes can be seen. Pei-jun's quiet face at this moment is as handsome as a wax statue, not like a real person. Seeing that he didn't speak again, Lily felt that she was really tragic. It didn't matter that she didn't know what the original owner's wish was. Now that the mission was in progress, she even used seduction. This mission didn't have to be as hard as the last time. She could endure 100,000 years of loneliness, but this time the task made her even more helpless. She would rather suffer and suffer than be like now, as if she had no clue. Lily sighed secretly, and the hands holding her suddenly stiffened. To be continued. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 179. Pei-jun is very sensitive to other people's psychological changes, so forget about people he doesn't care about. But he cares about Lily at the moment, so naturally he doesn't want to see her look like this. Lily closed her eyes, and when she opened them again she had already calmed down. She held Pei-jun's face and put her lips against his. Instead of moving away as quickly as before, she stuck out her tongue and licked his lips. Pei-jun was shocked and opened his mouth. His eyes were fixed on her. There was a bit of shyness and panic in those big black and white eyes, not as calm as usual. Lily didn't dare to look into his eyes and reached out to cover his eyes. Pei-jun seemed to want to pull her hand down. Lily simply threw herself into his arms and put her hands on his shoulders. He seemed to want to speak, but as soon as he opened his lips, Lily's tongue swept into his mouth unexpectedly. Now both of them were trembling. Lily was about to turn her head away, but Pei-jun hugged her tighter. No one had taught him this before. After he learned how to manage the Pei family and how to defeat Xiao Xiao, after learning how to control his emotions, Pei-jun once again learned how to get close to others. When Uncle Zhong opened the car door again, Lily lowered her head and sat next to Pei-jun. The handsome and indifferent young man put his arm around her waist and smiled at Uncle Zhong. "Zia, come with me to the company." Ever since the accident of the young master and his wife, Uncle Zhong has been working as a driver for Pei-jun for more than 10 years. He drives Pei-jun to and from the company and home every day, and he has never seen him smile at me. Uncle Zhong, he couldn't help but feel flattered, and looked at Lily several times in surprise. If Mr. Pei knew that Pei-jun smiled at him, he would definitely be disgusted. Unexpectedly, Miss Lin had the ability to change Pei-jun's decision and make him look in a good mood. The excitement on Pei-jun's face was something I had never seen on him before. Uncle Zhong returned to the car lightly. As he started the car and drove towards the company, Pei-jun stopped talking after the car started. He stood straight and looked out the window. Lily was a little embarrassed at first, but when she looked up and saw Pei-jun's actions, she felt inexplicably guilty. Seeing Pei-jun's red ears, she couldn't help but want to get up and see his expression. Unexpectedly, just as she moved, the handsome young man who thought he was in a daze turned his head, glanced at her shyly, and turned his head away. He put his arm around her waist, and although he didn't take it back, his fist was clenched. He stood up and put his other hand into a fist on his knee. This was his move to calm down. Lily couldn't help but feel embarrassed when she saw this. She leaned her head on his shoulder and squinted her eyes to calm herself down. In addition to Mr. Pei's position in the Chinese political arena, the Pei family. In the past, Pei-jun's mother also left behind a very large family property, which was no more complicated than politics. Old Mrs. Pei didn't need this little money, so he left it to Pei-jun to take care of it. While training his abilities, he could also find something to do for him so that he didn't have to stay at home all day or just focus on studying. Everyone in the company knows that there is a young boss above them who is a loner and does not like to socialize with others. Although there are usually many people looking at Pei-jun when he enters the company, there are not as many people as today, because he is always expressionless and even a little bit. The gloomy Pei-jun not only led Lily into the company, but also had a rare smile on his lips. This smile made everyone downstairs in the company dumbfounded. It wasn't until a few people entered the elevator that everyone reacted. The front desk suddenly exploded. Even though they knew they couldn't chat at work, many people couldn't help but guess. Take Lily's identity. I heard that she is the prince's fiancée, her childhood sweetheart. A senior employee who had been in the company for a longer time said this, and was immediately surrounded by everyone, all trying to trick Lily out. Some of them were jealous of Lily due to their status, and all kinds of comments suddenly came out. How come you haven't seen it before? The prince should be well protected. Lily followed Pei-jun into the exclusive elevator now. It's not that he likes to have special privileges, but he just doesn't like the smell of many people and some footprints left in his elevator. Usually, even Uncle Jean wants to follow him into the elevator. Pei Jun wished he could shrink into a ball. At this moment, Pei Jun happily led Lily into the elevator. Thinking of what happened in the car before, his ears felt hot. He wants to share everything he likes with Lily because she is different. But he couldn't tell what the difference was, so he just wanted to pull Lily into his elevator and hold her hand, as if this was the only way to prove that he was happy. He was like a child who was eager to present a treasure, wanting to show Lily everything he cared about and let her get involved in his life. All day long, when Lily was playing with her computer, she could occasionally feel Pei Jun's eyes looking towards her. She turned around and smiled at Pei Jun at first. Pei Jun smiled back at her, but then he came back to his senses. She hurriedly lowered his head, his ears were faintly red. He was shy before Lily had time to be shy, which made Lily feel very funny. She was lying on the sofa watching TV with her headphones on. Pei Jun glanced at her from time to time, but saw that Lily didn't turn around and smile at her like she did before. She couldn't help but feel a little gloomy. He wanted Lily to see it all the time. It was him and not the computer. He felt a little disappointed in his heart. He used a little more force on his hand, and the tip of the pen drew a long black mark on the paper. Pei Jun's brows suddenly wrinkled. There was a long mark on the contract waiting to be signed for no reason. He didn't like this feeling, but he didn't find it as annoying as before. Most of his attention was attracted by Lily. After hesitating, Pei Jun still took out the exact same clean contract from the several contracts he had printed out, lowered his head again and signed his name seriously, then pushed the document away, feeling a little displeased that Lily was neglecting him like this. "Zia he shouted faintly. Normally, he didn't feel that time was difficult even if he sat there all day long, but now, after only a short time, he already felt as if time passed very slowly. Once he called someone, Lily was wearing headphones, and there was a crackling sound in the headphones. The plot was reaching a critical moment, and she didn't notice Pei Jun's shout. Usually when he ignored others, this was the first time that others ignored him. Pei Jun felt a little unhappy in his heart. He pursed his lips. When Lily came back to her senses, Pei Jun had already squatted in front of her and moved the notebook away. By the way, she also took off the headphones hanging from her ears. He held Lily's face with both hands and said seriously, "Zia I don't like this." Inexplicably, I don't know why he got into trouble again. Lily sighed, and just as she was about to speak, Pei Jun had already moved his face towards her, and his lips touched hers. No one dared to enter Pei Jun's office for half the afternoon, but it gave Pei Jun a good opportunity. Lily let him hold her in his arms. When it was almost time to get off work, she felt relieved and decided not to come to work with Pei Jun in the future. She must carry money with her when she comes tomorrow, either go out to play for a day, or go back to Pei's house by herself, and wait for him at the school gate by car when the time comes in the evening. Just because Pei Jun is more introverted than others does not mean that he is not dangerous. From the time when he actively waited for him to come close to him and later he came to him on his own, you knew that whether he was autistic or not, he was actually a man. When he got off work at 5:30 in the evening, Uncle Jean was already waiting outside the office door. Pei Jun's obsessive-compulsive disorder sometimes has certain benefits, that is, he is very punctual when commuting to and from get off work, except for some people who work overtime due to necessary plans. Everyone in the whole building got off work very early, but Uncle Jean waited for several minutes before seeing Pei Jun pack his things and come out. He was a little worried whether Pei Jun locked himself in the office again, and he saw what was inside. The two of them came out holding hands. Lily didn't care. The key was that Pei Jun came out a few minutes late and he seemed very happy. Uncle Jean looked at him several times and saw that Pei Jun didn't even have his coat when he came out. "I forgot to wear it," and was speechless. In the past, Pei Jun would never forget anything. He didn't need a personal secretary and didn't like people following him. The office was like a forbidden area for him. In addition to cleaning, outsiders almost had to deliver materials a day in advance. In the office, everything he wears, eats, and does every day is recorded in his mind, as if there is a sophisticated instrument in his mind, including every little thing as long as he thinks it should be done. He did everything very carefully. After 10 years of following Pei-jun, this was the first time that Uncle Jeong saw him forgetting something. Looking through the office that has not yet been closed, the place that used to be neat and tidy like a sample room is now messy. The sofa, which is as clean as if no one has ever sat on it, is now littered with headphones and laptops that have not been closed. There seemed to be a few unpacked documents on the table. "Master, are you finished and ready to go home?" Uncle Jeong couldn't help but ask. Pei-jun blushed a little, as if he had thought of something, and hurriedly pulled Lily back to the office. This time he had no intention of closing the door again. He sat down at his desk and quickly took out a pen to sign the contract that needed to be signed. Some unfinished business matters were packed in bags and ready to be taken home for viewing. In the past, he actually didn't like to put them in bags. Taking business matters home would make him feel very uncomfortable, but right now, because he was just looking at Lily all day long, he didn't finish what he needed to do, so he had to go home and do it again. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 180. When Uncle Jeong saw this scene, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Seeing that Pei-jun quickly calmed down and finished the matter, he put on his coat again, and then pulled Lily and came out again. When they returned home, Uncle Jeong went to park the car before he could tell Mr. Pei what happened after get off work. When he returned to the hall, he saw Mr. Pei sitting on the sofa in the living room, holding a newspaper in his hand. But his eyes were fixed on Pei-jun and Lily, who were sitting on the chaise longue on the other side. On the other side of the single sofa, a girl of about 17 or 18 years old was sitting with her back straight and her hands clasped together. He put his fist on his thigh, with a serious look on his face, but his big eyes drifted towards Pei-jun involuntarily at this moment. The strange girl has long, soft, dark, straight hair, and her face is pure and well behaved without losing the vitality of a girl. Although her facial features are not absolutely beautiful, her girlish temperament and innocence and liveliness make up for her shortcomings in appearance. Make her look extra cute. Uncle Jeong couldn't help but look at it twice, and then he bowed respectfully to old Mrs. Pei and said, "Master, let someone arrange a room for her." Old Mrs. Pei looked at Pei-jun, who was watching no one, angrily. He felt very unhappy in his heart. Although he knew his grandson's character, he could see him staring at Lily with a smile. Looking at him instead of looking at him, and talking to him for a few more words, a sourness still rose from the heart of Mr. Pei. Lin Qianyu's luggage was placed next to the single sofa. Although she was a little excited, she wanted to suppress it as much as possible. Her pink face turned red and she bit her lips tightly, looking very excited, as if trying hard to show off his cuteness. Compared with Lily Lin, who always seemed to have a gloomy personality, there is no exaggerated makeup on her. There were no clothes that looked unattractive and unrefined, but there was just a girlish aura that made people feel attracted to her. If the previous mother Chin saw a new girl coming to the Pei family, she would naturally be happy for Pei-jun to have multiple choices. But now Lily seems to have changed. She and Pei-jun seem to have a good relationship. Mr. Pei will recruit more people. Chin's mother was a little confused. She glanced at Pei-jun hesitantly. He responded and picked up Lin Qianyu's luggage. When Lin Qianyu, who was originally sitting, saw this scene, she glanced at Lily and Pei-jun, who were ignoring her, with some resentment, and smiled sweetly at Chin's mother. "Thank you, Auntie." Her appearance can easily arouse the favor of others, and her smile is very bright. Compared with the previous Lily Lin, who had a sad look on her face even when she smiled, she looks much more comfortable, and Chin's mother's expression also softens. After a while, and just about to speak, Pei Jun turned his head and glanced this way. His eyes moved from Chin's mother's hand twisting the luggage to Chin's face, and then looked at the sofa where Lin Qinyu Saturday when Chin's mother was a little nervous. He turned his head away again. "After watching it for a long time, you should say something." Although I already knew what kind of character Pei Jun was. But at this moment, Chin's mother still couldn't help but her heart skipped a beat. She picked up Lin Qinyu's luggage and said to her in a warm voice, "Second miss, come with me. Let's go upstairs to your room first." Lin Qinyu responded yes and tucked her hair behind her ears nervously. This girlish look made Chin's mother couldn't help but smile again. When Lily came back, she saw that Lin Qinyu was actually a little angry. Now she heard that she was going to live there. She didn't understand that Lin Qinyu's arrival was the result of Lin's father's trick, but she also knew that even if Lin Qinyu was he has 3 heads and 6 arms, but without the permission of Mr. Pei, no matter how many ideas he has, they will not come true. Thinking of this, she glanced at old Mrs. Pei and lowered her head. She didn't like Lin Qinyu, but this was not her home. Even she was living in Pei's house, so what qualifications and position did she have to drive people away? Who is she? He originally thought that Pei Jun could not see anyone else in his eyes, but now he not only saw Lin Qinyu, but also saw Chin's mother taking her upstairs. Lin Qinyu's eyes shone brightly. She pursed her lips. The plump and slightly curled lips looked very soft and delicious because of the lip balm. She whispered, "Brother Jun, I am Qinyu and I am Lily's sister's sister." Pei Jun didn't stare at her face, only at the place where her feet had stepped. "You're not allowed to go up there." "Ajin, don't be ridiculous." Mr. Pei was a little surprised. His grandson has never shown that he hates or likes anyone. At most, he used to be special to Lily Lin and could talk to her occasionally, but to Mr. Pei didn't notice how much he cared about her. Otherwise, why didn't he follow Lily Lin when she went back to her parents' home again and again? To put it nicely, Pei Jun's character is because he is immersed in his own world and willfully refuses to accept others, but to put it worse, it means that he excludes all irrelevant people from his world. "You're not allowed to go upstairs." Pei Jun looked a little unhappy. The upstairs was his place. He didn't like the smell of other people, and he didn't want others to step on the path he had walked, especially a person. For someone who wasn't very familiar with him, his expression seemed a little anxious. He looked back at Lily and hugged her into his arms without thinking. Thinking of a way to calm down quickly, he clasped his hands with Lily's fingers and held her in his arms. The arms were folded together and held behind the back. Judging from the postures of Mrs. Pei and others, it looked like Lily was putting her hands on her lower back behind her back, while Pei Jun was holding her waist. His head lightly touched Lily's forehead. Originally, he wanted to touch lips, but Lily already knew what he wanted to do. She cleverly lowered her head, and his lips just touched the center of her eyebrows. Middle. At this moment, Pei Jun's hand and Lily's fingers were tightly clasped and there was really no room for them. He couldn't make Lily stop hiding. He could only look at her aggrievedly, but he didn't know that their actions shocked everyone in the hall. The two of them seemed very distant before, but they didn't expect that it had already progressed to this point in just a short time. Old Mrs. Pei opened his mouth wide, showing a rare look of losing his composure. He couldn't believe that this was his grandson. What happened? If he hadn't seen that there was only annoyance in Pei Jun's eyes now instead of intimacy, he might have thought that his grandson had already become normal and already knew how to be close to women. "Zia, tell me." Pei Jun didn't want to say more. He could only hold Lily tighter and ask her to speak. He knew that Lily understood what he wanted to say. There was a room for 2 people upstairs. Although the main residence of the Pei family occupies a large area, most of it is filled with other facilities. There are some rooms on the 3rd floor, but there are some places on the 3rd floor where Pei Jun sometimes plays puzzles or practices and learns. It is his secret base. Others were not allowed to go in at will. Sometimes when Lin Lily rushed upstairs in anger, he would personally take the handkerchief and wipe away the traces left by Lily Lin. Now Mr. Pei actually wants to let Lin Qinyu go to the 2nd floor. This old house is divided into 2 directions, southeast and southeast. There is a corridor in the middle. On the east side is the residence of Mr. Pei. For a young girl like Lin Qinyu, she must not it may be related to Mrs. Pei. Mrs. Pei has been dead for many years. She must live with Pei Jun. How could Pei Jun let an outsider invade his territory? He was like a wolf with its fangs exposed, staring at Lin Qinyu dissatisfied. Sister, don't you welcome me? Lin Qinyu saw Pei Jun's back and was smart enough not to argue with him. Pei Jun is the crown prince of the Pei family. Before he came, his father had already talked to him several times. She had warned her not to offend anyone she offended. She could not be like Lily Lin and make trouble with Pei Jun without knowing her identity. In that case, she would only end up being despised by everyone like Lily Lin. Lin Qinyu wisely chose to talk to Lily, but she didn't expect that as soon as she finished speaking, when Lily was about to speak, Pei Jun had already covered Lily's lips. She is not allowed to talk to her, she can only talk to me. Explain. She had never noticed such a domineering side of him before. Lily glanced at him and said, "Didn't Ajin ask me to say that? I asked you to tell her to get out." When Pei Jun heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little angry, and his eyes were a little brighter because of his efforts. He had promised to invite him to live in the Pei family. Seeing that Pei Jun was not showing any face to him, Mr. Pei's eyes flashed. He hoped that his grandson would be more energetic and that he could become more normal. He dare not ask Pei Jun to be fine, but if such stimulation can make Pei Jun say a few more words and let him see that women are readily available, maybe his situation will gradually get better. Even if it hasn't reached what he expected, as long as it can be better than now and make him feel relieved, he will be satisfied. At this moment, Mr. Pei is more and more satisfied with the decision he has made. He is even more determined to let Lin Qinyu stay. He just said a few words to Lin Qinyu. She is a smart and ambitious girl. The Pei family is not afraid of ambitious people. People are afraid of people who are as stupid as Lin Lily. Lin Qinyu might be more suitable than Lin Lily to stay. Ajin, don't be rude. Miss Lin is our guest. What did Grandpa teach you before? Mr. Pei Jun scolded him with a cold face. Pei Jun's eyes dimmed and he looked down at Lily. He just thought he was about to say something, but he felt Lily put her arms around his waist, and a little warmth came from her soft body. He was stunned. Lily had already blinked at him, and Pei Jun sat in silence. After sitting down, Mr. Pei felt relieved and smiled with satisfaction. You are young people. You must have a lot to say. Grandpa will go back to the room to take care of business first and come down later for dinner. To be continued. P.S. Together with this chapter, a total of 4 chapters are completed, and I have already finished them. There are 2 updates today. Don't panic. In fact, every story has its pitfalls. In addition, I don't want to write every story exactly the same, otherwise it would be boring, right? So there should always be different protagonists and different plots. Also note, there are 2 updates today, girls, don't get this wrong. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 181. After Mr. Pei finished speaking, he winked at Chin's mother. Then Chin's mother gingerly carried Lin Qinyu's luggage upstairs. Lin Qinyu was about to reach the 2nd floor and turned around to look at Lily. The long black hair cast a brilliant light in the space. Now her eyes no longer looked innocent and innocent before, but instead became confident and extremely charming. She met Lily's eyes and smiled. And then finally saw Pei-jun, his eyes full of determination to win. "Zia-hee, why do you want her to stay?" Pei-jun's tone revealed a bit of loss and pain as if he had been betrayed. There was accusation in his eyes, and his expression was very fragile, which made people feel a little distressed. Just now, he had given himself face no matter what and didn't say anything anymore. Lily felt a little weak now. She shook his hand and whispered in his ear, "Ajin, there are two of us, let's go out and live these days." The girl's shallow breathing blew against Pei-jun's ears as she spoke, making him want to laugh a little and shrink his shoulders. After hearing what Lily said clearly, his eyes lit up at first, and then he hesitated. "Yes, can you? Okay, let's go out and live for a while, and then come back after Mother Chin and the others send Lin Kinyu away." "I don't like her. I must ask Chin's mother to redecorate the room when I come back," Pei-jun added, and Lily agreed without hesitation. She knew Pei-jun's character, but she was tired at the moment anyway. "It wasn't me, but I casually agreed that it was someone else who was going to do the work anyway, so I happily agreed." The faint smile on Pei-jun's face became deeper and deeper, and he imitated her and whispered in her ear, "Then we have to take our quilt with us. I like Zia-hee's quilt. And clothes. And..." If he were to continue talking, it would be endless. Lily glanced at him and made a silent gesture, asking him to wait for her where she was for a while. Although Pei-jun wanted to join her, he still agreed softly. Taking advantage of the fact that there were no major people around, Lily went upstairs to her room and packed 2 clean sheets and bed covers, 2 more beds of cotton wool, and stuffed some clothes into her bag. Went down. When I ran downstairs, I was still afraid of being seen. I looked around and saw that Pei-jun was still sitting on the sofa as he had just left. Even the direction of his eyes didn't seem to change. I couldn't help but ask him to come over quickly. After handing the things to him and letting him take them out first, he went upstairs and collected a lot of clothes, shower gel, shampoo, and other necessary things. These things were specially made by the Pei family. If you have money outside, you can buy them. No, Pei-jun is already used to these things. When she packed up the 2 big boxes and went downstairs, 2 servants saw it and didn't take it seriously. In the past, Lily Lin always made noises about running away from home. I don't know how many times I have done this, but in the end she still doesn't come back obediently. No one really cares whether Lily will leave or not. Seeing her pushing the box out, they pretended not to see her, but they didn't expect the old man's heart. Jianzi was also kidnapped. "Ajin, can you drive?" There are many cars in the Pei family's garage, but when Pei-jun goes out, someone helps him drive. There is no time in his memory when Pei-jun drives alone. After all, his parents both died in car accidents. Yes, Lily is also afraid that this will leave a shadow in his heart, but she is not very good at driving. She just learned to drive before the accident, and her driving is not stable. After a few lifetimes, she has not wasted her time on learning to drive when she is on a mission. She spent the extra time studying martial arts. It was snowing in the imperial capital at the moment. Based on her half-hearted driving skills, she might have an accident while driving. "Can't we look for Uncle Jean?" Pei-jun lowered his head and glanced at Lily curiously. He had 2 big bags hanging on his hands. Lily also pushed a big suitcase to him. He was always full of fairy spirit and seemed not to eat. The nobleman who was showing off the fireworks in the world was just like the people fleeing for safety with sandbags on their backs, making Lily want to laugh just by looking at him. "We are running away, how can we let others know? Does Ajin want to be caught back with Lin Kinyu then?" she asked Pei-jun in return, and Pei-jun shook his head in a hurry. Lily suppressed her laughter and reached out to touch his face. Pei-jun's ears turned red and he whispered, "Then I'll drive." She just got the key from where Uncle Jean usually kept the car keys. The two opened the car and put the things in the back of the car. Pei Jun sat in the driving seat and was silent for a while. Just when Lily thought that he might not be able to do it. At this time, he started the car, let the engine warm up for a while, and then drove out of the garage in reverse. The two of them also have real estate and villas in their names. Although Father Lin has no feelings for his eldest daughter, and he doesn't like her because she always makes noises about separation from Pei Jun, in order to show the Pei family that he values her, Lily also had a villa in her name, so the two of them directly chose a villa in the center of the city and drove there. Although Father Lin gave Lily Lin a villa, this house was incomparable to the Pei families. It was a group of garden houses and villas with many residents. Fortunately, the villa was a single building, otherwise Pei Jun would not be willing to live in it. It was often cleaned and kept clean. They were in a new place and the two of them lived together anyway. Lily simply directed Pei Jun to put the clothes into the cabinet upstairs and asked him to fold the clothes. While making the bed, Lily turned around and saw that Pei Jun was still folding pieces of clothes to put into the cabinet. He was very particular about folding, and every corner of each piece of clothing had to be aligned neatly, as if this was the only way to satisfy him. However, Lily was not that tidy. She touched her belly at the moment and looked at the outside. It was getting dark, so I simply stuffed the suitcase and clothes into the cabinet. Pei Jun pursed his lips. He resisted the urge to take out all the clothes and fold them again. He clenched his fists as he couldn't calm down. Lily glanced at him. "Ajahn, we're hungry, let's go out to eat." "You can't eat food from outside," Pei Jun said seriously. He sat on the bed, his back straight, and looked up at Lily standing in front of him with a strange charm. Lily knew that he didn't like eating out 3 meals a day. In the past, someone in Pei's family cooked, so they didn't have to worry about what to eat. She thought about it. "My craftsmanship is actually pretty good." He simply pulled him up and said, "Then let's go buy some vegetables and cook them ourselves." Pei Jun showed a shy smile on his face and nodded lightly, "Yes." When he was with Lily, he found that he didn't dislike driving as much as he thought. On the contrary, because of her, he was more serious about driving than usual. He didn't like the busy scene in the supermarket, but when Lily took his hand and asked him to push the cart into the supermarket, pointing out what he wanted to eat, Pei Jun felt that there was nothing he couldn't tolerate in the supermarket. It's just that he subconsciously avoided touching even a little bit of dust on the ground when walking. This, and this, I want them all." Lily came out with a card this time and picked up a lot of things in the cart. She walked to the fresh milk and thought that Pei Jun would drink milk when he fell asleep. And wanted to reach out to take it. Pei Jun saw the frozen water droplets on the outside of the milk carton, frowned and took her hand. He had been patient for a long time, but now he couldn't bear it anymore. He took out his handkerchief and wrapped it in the milk carton. He looked at the milk carton with a reserved and critical look for a long time, and then put it back with disgust. "Aren't you going to drink it?" Lily glanced at him curiously. She saw this brand of milk. It was an imported brand with a good reputation. Pei Jun shook his head, with a look of irritation on his face. "The sound when it shakes is different from usual." Lily raised her head and stared at him for a long time. Who would notice the difference in the sound of the milk being shaken? Only someone like him, who is already very demanding about things, would be able to hear it. She knew that she couldn't force Pei Jun to drink. Even if he drank, he would definitely be unhappy for a long time, so she didn't force it. She just took what she wanted to drink. Seeing Pei Jun's forbearing look, but did not speak, Lily tolerated it. I couldn't help but laugh. After buying a lot of vegetables, Pei Jun was a little dissatisfied at first, but after hearing that Lily wanted to eat, he started to pick them himself. He just pinched a piece of garlic and had to look at it for a long time if he was not satisfied with any of it. As if he was being ruthlessly abandoned, Lily grabbed a lot of them randomly before dragging him out to pay the bill. The two of them had fun shopping in the supermarket, but they didn't notice that many people in the supermarket looked at them with envy and amazement. Until the two of them finished paying and walked away, many people's eyes were still on Pei-jun. I can't come back to my senses. After driving back home, the two of them were satisfied after doing some shopping and buying many daily necessities. However, things exploded over at the Pei family. When old Mrs. Pei heard that his precious grandson was missing, he almost smashed the ground with nothing. Make a hole. Find it for me. Both of them can't stand it. In the surveillance video, Mrs. Pei was speechless when he saw Lily twisting something and going downstairs. Pei-jun ran after her with a happy smile on his face. Mr. Pei abducted a girl here, and his grandson was abducted. He knew his grandson's character. He would definitely not be used to being outside. Sooner or later, he would come back. He called someone again after sending the surveillance video tracking the car that was driven out of the house. It was confirmed that the two of them just went to live in one of the places, so Mr. Pei ignored it. Although he was worried about his grandson and didn't like Lily's behavior of abducting people, he had to admire Lily for being able to coax Pei-jun, who had been immersed in his heart for many years, to such a point that he could abandon the shadow in his heart and drive. He lived in a strange and insecure place, and everything made him marvel at Lily, but it was really ridiculous. To be continued. P.S. Recommend books from gay friends. Book title, Goining. Introduction, Xie Shuning is dead. He died in March in Yangchun together with his youngest son. But when she opened her eyes, she returned to the time when she first came to Beijing with her mother. Fine snow was flying in the sky and the roads were covered with snow. When she was young, she was white and fat like a steamed bun. She was protected on the left and right by her mother who died of depression in her previous life and her brother who died young. The carriage swayed beneath her, carrying them towards her nightmare of the past. But this time, will life be different? Second update. I mentioned before that the second update will be at 7 o'clock, so I would like to remind everyone that if there are 3 updates, the second update will only be at 5 o'clock.